All right, we are live. Welcome in, guys. Farzi Vasugian here with you for another installment of the Red Friday live chat. And we've got a very busy episode for you guys tonight. Got some breaking news that just came down minutes ago. Jordan Love is now the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. Crazy part is he's not the only quarterback that got paid today. Tua Tagovailoa for the Miami Dolphins. He also hit the jackpot today. He became the highest paid quarterback of guys not named Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. So Burrow and Lawrence were still tied for number one. In terms of average approximate value, then Jordan Love right behind them. Tua right behind them. But no, today that all changed. It was it's now Jordan Love. He's now the guy. And I think there's definitely some talking points with that. And I definitely want to hear from you guys on this. The Raiders and the whole Kermit the Frog doll thing at camp, that has become a big story today, essentially in the last 26 hours, 27 hours, where that became a thing. Lots of people are reacting to that. That is something we'll touch on. Jim Rome, my God. Jim Rome had a massive response. To call it a mic drop or to say he burned the Raiders is an understatement. Does not do justice to his comments. What he said about the Raiders. If you missed it, you'll definitely want to hear it. I'll get into that shortly. And of course, training camp, some things to get into. Xavier Worthy returned to practice today. Some people were kind of worried about that. Nothing to worry about. He's good. It was a strep throat. You don't want to get other people sick, plain and simple. It happens. Because I heard at A10, they were asking, who gets sick in July? Shit, man. I mean, you just cannot control that thing sometimes. You just can't. Thankfully, he's okay. He's past it, and he's back on the field practicing with the team, and definitely needed because they're now putting on the pads. Today was the first day of padded practice. Offense was, a bit out of sorts today. Hey, last I checked, I don't think Michael Jordan had a perfect practice every single day in his playing career. I don't think Tom Brady had a great practice every single day in his time in the NFL. So you're going to have some of those days. Patrick Mahomes, his first year going into the season as a starter, had a couple of really bad practices where he was throwing a bunch of interceptions. So, it's going to happen. If it happens on a consistent basis, that would be a much bigger concern for sure. All right. I see a lot of you guys are tuning in, commenting, watching, all that good stuff. Much appreciated. I'm sure we'll get more listeners as the night goes on. And a lot of things to react to tonight. If you guys have a question, if you guys have anything that you want to ask, if you guys have any comments, things that you just want to get off your chest, you want me to respond to, that adds a lot of things into. So let's get into it. Comment below, and I'll get into your guys' comments later as we go on with the Red Friday live chat. Okay. We got to get into this whole quarterback contracts thing. Because this one's pretty interesting. Given just the landscape of the quarterback market, and I just kind of wonder personally, are NFL owners and general managers, are they just kind of at a point where they're just, waving the white flag saying, okay, you say you want this much, we'll give it to you? Because it is out of control. The teams don't want to ever pay their players this much money because, the more you can control the amount of money you spend, the more you'll be able to bring in good quality players. That's what a lot of people said 4 years ago about Patrick Mahomes. Oh, wait a minute. Patrick Mahomes, that's right. He signed a massive 10-year extension, and it was a 12-year contract because it was the last year of his rookie deal. Plus, they did the fifth-year option on his rookie deal, and then 10 more years following that. And a lot of people back then said the Chiefs overpaid for Patrick Mahomes. That was the narrative out there. I'm not making this up. That's what people said. They said Patrick Mahomes is overpaid. They gave him way too much money. They're going to struggle, getting good players here and there, and that the Chiefs were in trouble because of what they did. Well, Tyreek Hill left because they disagreed on money, and a lot of people pointed to the Patrick Mahomes contract. And what do you know? The Chiefs are undefeated in Super Bowls. Now, let me say this, and I've said this many times on this podcast, and I'll say it again. I'll say it right now. I know you guys are capable of screen recording, all that stuff. Screen record this. Every single quarterback is overpaid, including Patrick Mahomes. Now, you can look at the Patrick Mahomes contract and say, well, you've gone to the AFC Championship game every single year. The worst year with the Chiefs under Patrick Mahomes is an AFC Championship loss in overtime. That is the worst season with the Chiefs in the 6 seasons Patrick Mahomes has been a starter. This upcoming season will be a 7th season. So in the 6 years Mahomes has been a starter, the Chiefs have their worst finish to any season has been an overtime loss in the AFC Championship game. So you have either reached the Super Bowl or won the Super Bowl, or you've come this close to going to the Super Bowl in his first 6 years as a starter. So you know what? At the end of the day, the Mahomes contract is not really that bad at the end of the day. And people back then even said, look, as the salary cap continues to grow, that contract is going to look better and better. But there were a lot of people who kind of ignored that fact and said Patrick Mahomes is overpaid. That's what a lot of people said back then. These are not my words. I'm telling you what a lot of people out there have been saying. Because let's be honest, I get told I don't know what football is, or I don't know anything about the sport. So, a guy who doesn't know nothing about the sport, but yet a lot of people out there were saying Patrick Mahomes is overpaid. Okay. Where's that energy right now? And listen, let me just say this. I like Jordan Love. I think he's going to be a great quarterback for the Packers. Now, obviously, he's got big shoes to fill. He's already done a good job so far. He's only been a starter for 1 season. But I think Jordan Love is going to have a great career with the Packers. Is it going to be anything like Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre? The 3 decades of Hall of Fame quarterback success the Packers have had? I don't know. I have no reason to dismiss that possibility. I actually think the Packers are going to be very good this year. It's kind of hard to pick them to win the division because I still think Detroit is the team there, but I'm neither here nor there. The point I'm trying to make is this. Jordan Love only played 1 good season of football. He's only been a starter for 1 year. And he got himself the deal. And I understand the contract and how it works. He was a 2nd-round pick. It's a 4-year deal. He's eligible for a new deal. But he only had 1 good season. Listen, we don't know in 5 years from now who's going to be the best team in the NFL. We just don't. So many things can happen. God forbid, injuries, which is, I've said this many times, injuries, they're part of sports in a very unforgiving way. You never know if some of these top 5 players in the NFL right now, they might not be around in a couple of years if their career is derailed with injuries. That's kind of what we did not expect with Andrew Luck and RG3. People thought those 2 quarterbacks were going to run the league for a very long time. And within 10 years, even sooner than that, both of them were out of the league because of injuries. So a lot can happen even in 3 years. So no one really knows exactly, of these top 10 quarterbacks, when it comes to average approximate value or AAV, who's still going to be around and who's going to have success and all of that. But we do know one thing. When you look at the top 10 AAV right now, Patrick Mahomes is not on it. Patrick Mahomes is not even on that list. He's out of the top 10. So if Patrick Mahomes is overpaid, what do you make of this list right now? And I don't have the list in front of me, but off the top of my head, the top 4, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, and Joe Burrow tied number 2, and Tua is right behind Burrow and Lawrence. Oh, guess who's waiting to get a contract? Dak Prescott. And what has what has he accomplished in the NFL so far? Not a whole lot, especially in a city like Dallas where the standard is very, very high every single year. So I'm not sure personally, like with the Chiefs, you signed Patrick Mahomes at the best time possible. What was the biggest complaint about John Dorsey? He waited way too long to give a contract extension to Justin Houston and to Eric Berry. When he signed Justin Houston to a big deal, I think it was he was the highest paid defensive player in the NFL at the time, something along those lines, or maybe highest paid pass rusher in the NFL. I don't have it in front of me, so I apologize. But John Dorsey gave that contract to Justin Houston, and what happened to Justin Houston? He started dealing with injuries in Kansas City and was starting to miss a lot of games. What happened right after John Dorsey gave that big contract to Eric Berry? Eric Berry missed a lot of time with Kansas City. Now, you guys might say, Farzine, how can you hold that against John Dorsey? He does not know when an injury is going to happen. That's very true. However, there were opportunities for John Dorsey to sign Justin Houston and Eric Berry much sooner, and he waited a lot longer than he had to. The longer he waited on Justin Houston went and got his 22 sacks in 2014. That was the best thing for Justin Houston, is to not get the contract he wanted after 2013, and he got it after 2014 instead, after his 22 sack season. I mean, that was Christmas for Justin Houston and his agent. And, unfortunately, he got injured, which is never a good thing. Nobody wants that. But at the end of the day, his agent signed that deal for him. He signed the deal. They agreed on those terms with the Chiefs, and he got a lot of money, even for the games that he missed. So you can still hold those kinds of things against general managers. That's, again, whether you want to say fair or not, that's just the way the sport works. I mean, that's the nature of it. If you're giving big contracts to guys, 2 massive big contracts to defensive players, and they both get hurt from it, that's going to be held against you. Now, that's not the only reason why John Dorsey was let go, but that was a huge reason for that. And we don't need to go down that path because that was a long time ago, and we've obviously moved on from it. My point is, you got to appreciate Brett Veach for what he's done. Has every single contract with Brett Veach that he's given been a good one? No. You look across the board with all of the general managers in the NFL, not all of them have hit a 100% success rate when it comes to handing out contracts. But Brett Veach, more times than not, has proven that he knows what the hell he's doing. And it's not a very easy job. I mean, listen, the Chiefs fired 3 general managers in the span of like 10 or 11 years before Brett Veach. The thing that I think a lot of people expected from Scott Pioli, Brett Veach is doing that now. You guys all remember the whole Scott Pioli thing coming in from the New England Patriots organization, and people thought this was going to be a team that would get that Patriots dynasty. Crazy enough, we saw it, 10 years after that, but we just thought Scott Pioli was going to bring that type of success at the time, and we didn't see that. So, to me, when you look at the landscape of the quarterback market right now, if you're a Chiefs fan, you got to feel pretty good about it because you got the Mahomes contract out of the way. I know they've also restructured it a couple of times to a point where it's actually benefited Kansas City multiple times, Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick's still going to make that money anyway through bonuses and whatnot. So everyone wins on both sides with all of that, which is good to see. But when you look at the other quarterbacks, I get this whole, people always say, what have you done for me lately? Well, what have these quarterbacks done lately? You hand Joe Burrow that big deal, and he unfortunately got dealing with multiple injuries since then. He's overthrowing passes in training camp. Not a good look so far. He's also practicing punts, so we don't even know what to really expect from him this upcoming season. Trevor Lawrence, he was tabbed to be the once-in-a-generation quarterback. Remember that? Remember that hype going into that draft class? We haven't seen Trevor Lawrence live up to that moniker once, not even close to it. There was a little bit of a stretch where the Jaguars had that hot run and they took the division away from the Titans. But outside of that, we have not seen Trevor Lawrence live up to that expectation, not even close to it. You look at Tua. I mean, I know he was hurt for one of the games, but you've yet to win a playoff game with Tua, and you just paid him a bunch of money. Jordan Love, again, I think Jordan Love is going to be a very good quarterback. So I think this is actually going to be a good contract for the Packers, unless he gets hurt. Hopefully he doesn't. But how do you justify that contract for one season as a starter? That's what I'm trying to wrap my head around. And here's the next point I want to make about this whole quarterback thing. If I'm a quarterback in college, like if I'm playing for a college football team, especially one of the Power 5 schools, I have to be looking at Jordan Love. Well, Jordan Love only played one good season. Again, I understand why he's only played one season, but he's only played one good season, and that was enough to get him that big deal. Joe Burrow has had a couple of good postseasons, but he's yet to win a Super Bowl, and he became the highest paid quarterback at one point. Trevor Lawrence only had one big playoff win, really only one good half of a performance in the playoffs, and he still got a big deal. Tua has yet to win a playoff game and just became a top 5 QB in terms of approximate value. So all these quarterbacks are getting paid, but none of them have, like Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson's number 5 on that list. Lamar Jackson's postseason numbers are not great. He does not have a very good postseason resume. So if you're one of those 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old quarterbacks right now in college football, you have to be looking at this quarterback market, saying to yourself, wait a minute, if those guys can get that big of a contract, what could I possibly get by the time I get to the NFL? I guarantee you, man, like if today, July the 26th, 2024, you got Tua and you got Jordan Love, who both joined the top 5 in average approximate value for a quarterback. If those guys can get that big of a contract, I promise you, man, these quarterbacks in college football right now, they're going to work their asses off to try to get to that level, try to attain that kind of contract. And why wouldn't you, dude? Like, man, if I'm in college, man, I'm gonna try to use every resource possible. Obviously using the people around me, trying to meet up with trainers who know a thing or two about the position away from the university, and just try to hone your skills. Because if you can find a way to improve every single day, even if you're just 1% better for one day, you're still getting better. And that could translate into a big contract in the NFL one day. I'm telling you, man, these quarterbacks right now, they have to be looking at the quarterback landscape, the market in the NFL, saying, man, in a couple of years, I'm going to be making $60 million a year. That's how crazy this market is right now. That's how crazy it is. These college quarterbacks, I mean, this is going to be a time for them where they're going to want to put every ounce of effort to try to get to that level. I don't care what any quarterback says. Oh, I'm just worried about, my college team and all that. Bullshit. You want to get to that level. Everyone does. And everyone wants money. Why do kids, like when you ask a 10-year-old, what do you want to be when you grow up? A lot of them will either say social media influencer, like a YouTuber, or a professional athlete. Well, why do they want to be one of those two things? Because there's a lot of money involved. If you're a big name YouTuber, well, you obviously just make YouTube videos for fun and you get money out of it, and you probably have more downtime than the average person. Same thing for a professional athlete. You get the money, you get the cars, the houses, plural houses. You get the ladies too, all that good stuff. That's why a lot of kids want to be professional athletes, because they know there's a lot of money involved in it. And that's why every quarterback, every athlete is trying to get every dollar possible. But my question is this, to wrap up my part of this, and I'll get to your next question soon. What are owners and GMs going to do? And I know there's a rumor about teams wanting a separate salary cap for quarterbacks. Bullshit. That is a very cheap way to try to get out of the salary cap struggles that some teams might have. I do not want a separate salary cap for quarterbacks. That is a bunch of crap right there. Keep them all together. Otherwise, find a general manager that can find a way to do the things that Brett Veach is doing. Plain and simple. I mean, this is why, like, Brett Veach, he's drafted very, very well. And, guys like Karlaftis McDuffie, they're going to want big deals very soon. Can you afford those deals to give to those guys? I don't know. Hopefully. I mean, I want those guys to stay a long time, but the reality is, if you continue to draft very well, not just in the first round or the second rounds, all 7 rounds, which the Chiefs have done very well recently, the reality is you're not going to be able to keep everyone. We're learning that reality right now as Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Nick Bolton, are all 3 of those guys, are they going to be back next year? I don't know. That would be an uphill battle to try to keep all of those guys. That's why you got to keep drafting very well if you're Brett Veach. Okay, I want to get into Jim Rome's comments because he absolutely eviscerated the Raiders today on his radio show. And eviscerated, I mean, that is maybe an understatement, because it was bad, real bad. Let me go ahead and pull up the quote here and put it in front of you guys because, oh boy. You want to talk about a mic drop moment from a sports broadcaster to an NFL team? This is it right here from Jim Rome. First off, he starts off by calling the Raiders idiots and then goes into the facts. And by the way, he doesn't refer to, I mean, he calls him Patrick Mahomes a couple of times, but he also, plays along with the Raiders' silly game. And I listen, let's back up a bit. I guess, some details have come out. A fan gave that puppet to, what was the name? Trey Taylor, a safety for a 7th round rookie drafted by the Raiders, a safety of all positions. So the second that guy gets on the field, Patrick and the offense, they've got that little plan. Hey, let's pick on that guy right there. Let's show him a lesson. But anyway, he picked up the puppet, starts playing around with it, but then goes on to call Patrick Mahomes a bitch. And then Jim Rome goes into the facts here and calls him Kermit, says Kermit is 10-2 against the Raiders in his career. 8 straight divisional title wins for the Chiefs. Winning, here's the most poetic part about this Chiefs-Raiders rivalry, if you can even call it a rivalry right now. The Chiefs won a Super Bowl in Allegiant Stadium before the Raiders could even play a postseason game in Allegiant Stadium. That's how pissed off Raiders fans are. That's why they lean so hard on a regular season Christmas Day win. That is their Super Bowl. That is their only Super Bowl in the last 21 years. A holiday win. That's all they have. And this same fan base that's very excited about Antonio Pierce, they're going to be calling for his job this year. Okay? You guys want to screen record one more comment of mine? Screen record this. Raiders fans are going to be calling for Antonio Pierce's job this year. They're not going to wait for another quarterback change. No. All the people who want Antonio Pierce, who wanted Antonio Pierce and think he's going to show them the promised land, they're going to be calling for his job, just like how they do every single year. They say that their team, it's their year. They're going to finally improve, and then they want the coach gone, even though they said that this was going to be their year. What else does he say? Let's see. Oh, yeah. He says that, they're mocking the best quarterback in the world. Meanwhile, they have the worst quarterback room in the world. I think the Patriots maybe win that award, but okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to argue too much on that right there. He also then goes on to congratulate Trey Taylor. He says, congratulations, Rook. You just guaranteed that franchise 10 more years of being that frog's bitch. Wow. He then finishes off by saying that somebody let John Gruden back in the building. He also mentions the victory lap around Arrowhead, and he says, look, at least they won, and they did that because the victory lap at this point doesn't even look as bad. And by the way, I know Raiders fans are speaking out on this, saying, wait a minute, didn't the Chiefs start this when they did the ring around the Rosie, the snow globe, in one of the games? Yeah. Do you guys not recall what happened recently before that when the Raiders stomped on the Chiefs field before a game and got their asses kicked in embarrassing fashion? From the second snap of the game, the Raiders lost that game. Um, listen, I don't understand the obsession of like wanting to piss off Patrick Mahomes. This guy already deals with his wife getting attacked, his family getting attacked by the public. Listen, I have whatever opinion you want about the family, but when someone of Patrick's stature deals with that kind of thing, that's never an easy thing to deal with. I don't care how successful you are in life. No one wants to see their family get attacked like that on the internet daily, constantly. And the fact that Patrick is always winning Super Bowls and he gets to celebrate with his wife, Brittany, pisses off a lot of Brittany haters, whether they want to admit it or not. How many people last year were outraged because they saw Taylor Swift on TV and next to Taylor Swift was Brittany Mahomes? A lot of fucking people, whether they want to admit it or not. No one's hiding from the fact that they were outraged by the amount of times they showed Taylor Swift and Brittany right next to her. So what happened? Those two, Brittany and Taylor, got to celebrate the Super Bowl win with their guys, Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. And that pisses off a lot of haters, whether they want to admit it or not. So the whole thing at the end of the day with all of this is, what are you trying to do? You're trying to pick a fight with the best player in the NFL, and you just got drafted to the NFL. You barely got drafted. This would be, I'm a huge UFC fan. I don't know how many of you guys are into UFC or boxing. This would be like somebody that just signed a UFC contract, obviously someone very young and not as experienced, and they want to pick a fight with Jon Jones. For those of you who do not know who Jon Jones is, Jon Jones has never been defeated in MMA before. He's lost only once, and that was by disqualification because he used some sort of elbow technique that was banned from the sport. They just recently unbanned that. So, if that happened sooner, Jon Jones would be undefeated in the MMA. In MMA. That's how dumb this is. You're picking a fight with a guy who's going to embarrass you if they see you on the field. I guarantee you. Like, let me just say something about Patrick Mahomes. What was the issue last year with the Chiefs? The drops. Did Patrick Mahomes lash out at any of his players on the sidelines or in press conferences? No. What did he do instead? In press conferences, he said, I need to do better, which is obvious. Look, it's BS, but that's what a leader does. No leader said, yeah, my sucks. No. And even though Kadarius Toney did not play very well and they essentially benched him, Kadarius Toney do? He still fought for his guy. What did Justin Watson do? Even though he dropped a lot of passes, still fought for his guy. Travis Kelce drops a lot of passes too. But what does Mahomes do? He takes ownership of it. Even though it makes no sense. That makes Travis Kelce want to fight for Patrick Mahomes even more. So when all of these guys see a rookie on the Raiders call Mahomes a bitch, they're all going to remember that. Justin Reed posted on his Instagram last night in his story, posted a picture of himself just tackling a Raiders player, and he wrote, the caption he wrote was, this game just got more interesting. I'm telling you guys right now, for all of you bettors on DraftKings and FanDuel, put a reminder the Tuesday before the Chiefs and Raiders play in late October. I think it's week 7 or week 8. Go put yourself some money on Patrick Mahomes. Whatever the over-under is on all the Mahomes stat lines that week, pick the over. Unless they like inflate that somehow to the point where you kind of have to pick the under. Pick the over in that one. I guarantee. Listen, Andy Reid's not someone that likes to run up the score. He just doesn't do that. Hence why I think sometimes he gets conservative, and the Chiefs have blown some leads in under Andy Reid in the past. But I guarantee you, if there was ever a game where the Chiefs are going to run up the score and maybe accept a couple taunting penalties and willing to pay whatever fine comes with it, it's going to be that game in Vegas. This stadium where Patrick's undefeated and has a Super Bowl win. So, I mean, what are you doing here? Who are you picking a fight with? I'm not suggesting for the Raiders to go pick a fight with the Patriots, to earn the crown as to who's not going to be the worst team in the AFC. Like, no, that's dumb. but don't be picking fights with the team that you can't beat. Oh, you beat them once on Christmas. You beat the Chiefs once every 3 years. That's not anything to really be excited about. And it's funny to me because on top of this, Antonio Pierce said what in the offseason? He said, we have the recipe to beat Patrick Mahomes. Really? You have the recipe on a year where, you know, we all know what the problem was with the Chiefs, the drops. That's what held the Chiefs back so much. So because of that, you now have the recipe to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs? Oh, by the way, Rashee Rice has a year of experience under his belt. They bring in 2 speedsters on Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy. So this takes a lot of pressure off Travis Kelce. This takes a lot of pressure off Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, this is an offense that has a lot of depth. Aqib Talib said, and this is a defensive back, so this guy knows what the hell he's talking about going up against a stacked offense. Because he's gone up against a couple of those in his time. Aqib Talib said that this is going to be the most dynamic Chiefs offense that they've had with Patrick Mahomes. And keep in mind, this is a Chiefs team that once had Tyreek Hill. And that same offense, they had the 3rd highest scoring output in NFL history. The following year, 2019, the first 5 or 6 games, Patrick Mahomes was putting up insane numbers and looked like he was going to surpass 5,000, maybe even 6,000 yards. Go calculate the average those first 5 or 6 games. I mean, he was putting up ridiculous numbers. Then he started dealing with the high ankle sprain, the knee injury. There was another injury that year he was dealing with, but he toughed through all of that, which, again, you just appreciate Patrick Mahomes more and more when you think of what he's accomplished and what he's really fought through. Yeah, the Raiders just made the Raiders just really made a big mistake. They're going to regret this. They're going to regret this. Okay. Enough of me. I'm going to read all of your guys' comments right now. Again, reminder, this is the Red Friday live chat. I want to read what you guys have to say. If you guys have any questions, you guys have any comments, anything you guys want to add in, please comment below. I do want to say one quick thing. If I do not read your comments, sometimes it gets a little crazy to the point where it's hard to keep up. But at the same time, if I see repeat questions that I've already answered and I skip over your question, that might be a big reason why. So I get this comment before I move on. I have to get this out there. I get comments sometimes. Someone a week ago said, "Oh, you responded to me now, but you didn't respond to me yesterday when I called you out." Buddy, I do not read every single comment on my social media. If I sat down and just was on this phone, if I just sat on this phone all day, waiting for every single comment to come out, waiting for every single comment so I can read them, I would accomplish nothing in life. Believe it or not, I do read every comment on the internet. I don't. And if anyone does, I question what kind of life you really lead, but that's really none of my business for those other content creators who do that kind of thing. So I just want to let it out there. If I don't see your question, it might be because of a repeat. It also gets a little crazy, turns into a cluster sometimes. So I'm not ignoring anyone. So I just had to get that out there. Kyle says Mahomes officially out of the top 10. Yeah. And this is the guy who was quote unquote overpaid. Remember that. Overpaid Patrick Mahomes. You tell me. David's excited. It is Red Friday. Hell yeah, brother. Patrick won Super Bowls. He has money and he's making killer funds off commercials. Yeah, that's the crazy thing about Mahomes. It's and by the way, it's not just him. His wife's making a lot of money too. I don't know exactly how much money she's making. I think Forbes came out with an article a year or two ago saying that Mahomes makes approximately $22 to $24 million a year off endorsements, and he's just getting more and more endorsements every year. So I'm sure that number is getting higher and higher every time. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised it's not higher than that, because when you just turn on your TV during football season, whether it's sports channels, cable news, whatever, you just see Patrick Mahomes in a commercial, or Travis Kelce. But his wife is making a lot of money also. She's promoting a lot of things online, and I'm pretty sure she's not doing that for free. I know Patrick's mom also is promoting a lot of things on the internet. I am certain she's not doing those for free either. Chris says salary cap is going to catch up with all of them if they keep writing this contract. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're an owner, if you're the 32 owners in the NFL, I think you kind of got to do something to band together and say, look, I know I'm paying more than I should be for my quarterback. I know so are you, and you, except for you, Clark Hunt. Like, you're winning all the Super Bowls. But we kind of need to do something about this because it is going to hurt the sport in a way, because at some point teams are going to be broken financially and trying to afford players at other positions. I mean, it's going to get to that point at someday. Yeah, Bob, I mean, I don't disagree. Imagine that Shanahan ruined something, right? I don't disagree with you, Bob. I do think that did play a big factor in RG3's career. But still, I mean, we all thought he was going to be around, him and Andrew Luck, for a very, very long time. I disagree, Donnie. Eric Berry came back, actually played great. Like 2016, Eric Berry might have been Eric Berry's best year ever. That dude won you 2 games, the Atlanta game and the Carolina game. That's how damn good Eric Berry was that year. I remember Eric Berry had a pick 6 against Atlanta and then had to pick 2 to take the lead. Remember that one? That crazy scenario. And I remember Bleacher Report putting out a thing. Eric Berry scored 8 points and the Miami Dolphins scored like 6 points the same day, something along those lines. That's how crazy good Eric Berry was in 2016. In fact, I think he got 1 vote for Defensive Player of the Year. I know it's just 1 vote, but you just don't hear so much about that kind of thing. Guys who really are that big of a difference maker at the safety position. It's just unfortunate what happened to him and what, he dealt with before 2016, after 2016. I don't think he's officially retired. I do know the Cowboys were looking at him at one point. But that is football, unfortunately. I mean, you deal with injury them out for a very, very, very long time. Giving Snead away is going to bite him in the ass, Bob said. Listen, we all wanted L'Jarius Snead to stay. I said this for a while. You can't keep everyone. I said earlier today on this live stream, you can't keep everybody. Here's the thing. L'Jarius Snead's great, but he only can take away one receiver. Chris Jones and the rest of that defensive line, which, by the way, the entire defensive line is back. Every single defensive lineman is back from last year. A strong pass rush can take away all the receivers. And I think the Chiefs feel very confident in Josh Williams and Jalen Watson moving forward, as well as Najee Johnson. So, if you had to pick and choose, I think this might have been the right move. I can see the argument to keep Snead because he's younger and has more upside. I think Snead had a phenomenal season last year. I'm not taking anything away from it. You guys all know my thoughts on Snead from last year. He committed a lot of penalties. He's also been inconsistent during his time in the NFL. I think his second or third year in the NFL, he allowed the most catches by a cornerback. Now, that was a couple of years ago. Can he have a strong performance back-to-back years? We've yet to see him do. This is an opportunity for him to do that for the first time in his career. Have back-to-back good seasons. So we'll see. Lawrence needs a good barber. Man, what's with all the hairstyles in the NFL lately? That's what I want to know. I'm not one to talk. Dorsey didn't know who to sign and who to keep. Veach does. Hey, listen, I think Dorsey, let me just say this. I think Dorsey and Pioli were both very good at evaluating talent. Dorsey's problem is he waited way too damn long to sign these guys. So, yeah, I mean, to your point, I just lost that comment. Where was it? Paul, sorry. To your point, Paul, I think Veach is better at making decisions in a timely manner. I would add that part to your comment. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Nick Bolton. Yeah, you're a Mizzou guy, Bob. I know that. And obviously there are a lot of people here who are big Mizzou fans. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I do think this might be Bolton's last season. And the reason, I hope I'm wrong, and I will gladly admit it if I am wrong. But I think with Drew Tranquil's contract, that might be a big factor in what happens to Nick Bolton in the future. Mahomes is smart. He knows if you want to win Super Bowls, you have to have a team around you. Yeah, and he's made it very clear that he wants to make sure that he wants to make money, but he also wants to make sure the team around him is going to be just as good. He said that publicly many times. Firemen are cop and law enforcement are true heroes today. They need more pay. The American soldier also. I don't disagree. That's we can go into that another time. It's that is certainly something in our country that needs to be addressed. I mean, listen, we've had a lot of different leaders over the years, and none of them have done anything about that. And it's time that we should. I don't disagree with you one bit, Donnie. The Raiders are beyond idiots. They haven't won a Super Bowl since 1984, 40 years ago, which is funny because Raiders fans love, even to this day. I mean, 5 years ago, Raiders fans love to compare trophies 3-1, 3-2. And now they're saying, oh, you guys were irrelevant for 50 years. Well, the Raiders have now not won for 40 years. They haven't won a Super Bowl for 40 years. So if you want to make a big deal about the Chiefs not winning for 50 years, what about your team? 4 decades is a long time, especially today in the social media era of sports where fan bases are just not patient at all. I mean, what do you make of 4 decades? And it would not shock me if we surpass 5 decades for the Raiders. I don't think the Raiders could be a winner in the CFL. Yeah. Maybe not. The Chiefs live in the Raiders' head rent free. Yeah, possibly. Which is funny because everyone thinks that, you know, all the teams live in the Chiefs' head rent free. It's like, dude, have you not seen Ja'Marr Chase? The way he's talking about Mahomes, the way the Raiders are talking about Mahomes, like, come on. Now, here's an intelligent Raiders fan, Samuel. Like, Samuel, why can't other Raiders fans be as smart as you? I don't know. But Samuel says the Raiders have had problems, and this is another shaking my head. They don't learn. I don't see Chiefs players doing this to the Raiders logo or players. Yeah, I mean, listen, if the Chiefs, you know, I think the furthest the Chiefs have ever talked shit on the Raiders was after Super Bowl 58, where they said this is Arrowhead West. And I think you kind of have earned the right to say that considering you're 5-0. And plus, you know, the things about you just mentioned this stomping on the team's logo before the game. So, yeah, that's like the furthest I've ever heard the Chiefs say anything about the Raiders. He can take it. It's not right, Melody says, but when you are at the top, people tear you down. It sucks. Yeah, I mean, listen, why do people tear down people at the top? Well, jealousy. Whether you want to admit it or not, it is jealousy. That's the truth at the end of the day. Raiders fans are also attacking Patrick Mahomes' dad, calling him a drunk. Yeah, and listen, I have very strong opinions about people who get behind the wheel and do that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, still, you know, trying to make those kinds of comments to piss off Patrick Mahomes is not going to do you any good. And listen, generally speaking, like, and I'm going to go back to my UFC comparison. When athletes, especially in a sport like MMA, when they get emotional, they don't do well. Patrick Mahomes, like, listen, do you not think the Burrowhead comment and the Cincinnati mayor comment that pissed him off? Absolutely pissed him off. Did you not watch the quarterback series on Netflix? His trainer was like, yeah, I know you don't like that stuff. And even in his interview, the confessional, Patrick's like, yeah, I was kind of wild that they did all that. And what does he do? He makes sure his team comes away with a win at the end of the day. Bad ankle and all, puts his team on his back. Did he expect to be pushed out of bounds late like that? No, but it's not his fault that the Bengals did not know where the out of bounds line was. You can't apologize for another team's mishaps. That's how sports work sometimes, man. You got to do your job and execute. And if your opponents make mistakes, you take advantage of that. I remember when Tim Tebow led the Broncos to an overtime win in one play, in the Steelers playoff game, people are like, oh, well, if Troy Polamalu doesn't bite on the play action, they don't lose that quickly. Well, they did. That was the point of the play action, to throw off the safeties. And one of the best safeties to ever play the game, he bit right there. And that was enough to give Tim Tebow what he needed. Like, you can't sit here and say, well, if this happened or this happened, one small mistake goes the other way. Well, it didn't. I was listening to Mad Dog on ESPN. He goes, well, the Chiefs had a narrow win over the Bills. They had a narrow win over the Ravens and the very narrow win over the 49ers. But they won. That's, you know, and by the way, the whole thing about the Chiefs barely beating the Bills because their kicker missed, if Mecole Hardman doesn't fumble, the Chiefs win that game by 10 points. So people forget that stuff a lot. People always have selective memory. It's like, by the way, Mahomes had a minute and a half left, more than a minute and a half, and 2 timeouts if Tyler Bass made that kick. But people forget, like, Mecole Hardman fumbling at the 1 yard line into the end zone. If he doesn't fumble and maybe scores, the Chiefs are up by 10 points late in the fourth quarter. So what do I know, though? Haters got to hate. Yeah. By the way, big congrats to David. He won the giveaway. He just received it. Showed me the picture. I'm going to put that up tomorrow. There was just a lot in the news today, so I didn't get to that today, but I'll definitely put it up tomorrow. No giveaways right now, but we'll have something in the near future. By the way, that picture, you see it right there. That one right there. That's the same one David got. I'm not going to turn around and get that because you guys can't see it, but this whole area is a mess right now. If I just turn my chair like 2 inches, everything's going to go crazy. This camera is going to fall, and we don't need that right now. But that picture right there, I only have 3 of those left. And I'm thinking I might give all 3 of them away on Facebook. I know I've been doing, you guys have been telling me, why do I do Twitter and Instagram? Why not Facebook? Well, we're doing more Facebook now. We found a way to do it. We kind of had to, pull a Bill Belichick and go around the rules, but we found a way at the end of the day. Are you kidding me? Highway paid. I got 5 without even thinking ahead of him. I don't know what you're talking about, Justin. You got 5 stars on the highway, like Grand Theft Auto? I don't know. That is sad. 30-40% might be generous, Bob. That might be very generous. We won a Super Bowl on their field. Raiders will never get that one back. Nope. Marquez Valdes-Scantling planting that flag right in the middle of the field, and it wasn't on the Raiders logo. That was an NFL logo or a Super Bowl logo. I can't remember which one it was. Yeah, I mean, you won't get that one back. Here's what made Raiders fans so upset. The end zone that says Raiders, they covered that up and put Kansas City on it. The end zone that says Raiders at Allegiant Stadium said Kansas City on it. And the Chiefs won there. And who handed you the Lombardi Trophy? Broncos legend John Elway. What a great Super Bowl that was for the Chiefs. Did the public come complete with 3 Super Bowl rings? What's funny is the fan got called out by Jack Jones, the cornerback of the Raiders. That fan deleted the video. And he wrote a tweet saying, "Oh, I heard from the media and I got some wisdom and all that." And so, oh, okay, sure, buddy. Why delete it? It's already everywhere. I don't know. That was dumb. Would love to be at the game at Vegas. Yeah. Me too, man. I wish I was gonna go. I went last year for the Chiefs Raiders. That was a lot of fun. I was sitting on the Raiders side. There were still some Chiefs fans there, but there were so I'm weird like this. I wanted to be able to see the Chiefs from my vantage point, which, it was kind of useless to do that kind of thing. But it was nice to sit around a lot of Raiders fans who were very loud in the first half and then very quiet in the second half. In fact, they all left early, very early. While they were leaving, that's when the Tomahawk chant started. That was the best part about attending that game there. The Raiders had a couple of laps. Yeah, which is dumb. Not as dumb as this. Like the Raiders victory lap around Arrowhead, they did that. And the Raiders today, Trey Taylor said, "Hold my beer. I'll do something dumber." Justin Reid better than Eric Berry? Let me just say this, Donnie, because I don't understand why, but I see so many Chiefs fans online criticize Justin Reid, and I do not understand why. What is the obsession with criticizing Justin Reid? I think he might truly be one of the more underappreciated Chiefs that this team's ever seen. Does he get a lot of takeaways? Does he come away with big plays late in the game like Eric Berry or Tyrann Mathieu? No. But he does a lot of things that don't show up on the stat sheet. I mean, the amount of times that quarterbacks are too scared to throw it his direction. I mean, there have been a lot of games where Justin Reid has had 0 passes thrown at his direction. Richard Sherman, he had no interceptions for like half a year because no quarterback was throwing at his direction. That was when Richard Sherman was at his prime. And I'm not saying Justin Reid is on the same level as Richard Sherman, but you got to understand, like, yes, I understand that position, safety and cornerback, you think so much about interceptions. That's the biggest thing you think of when you think of those positions, that stat line. Same thing with pass rushers. You think of sacks. But just because you don't get interceptions or you don't get sacks doesn't mean you're not doing your job. There are a lot of things that defensive players do that don't show up on the stat sheet. Drue Tranquill does a lot of great things that do not show up on a stat sheet. Yeah, a lot of you guys are mentioning the Raiders, the victory lap. Yeah, a lot of comparisons to that. Patrick trend all day yesterday, and they were off. That's a good point, Antoinette. On Patrick Mahomes' off day, the Raiders found a way to make it about him. I didn't even think of it that way. It's a really good point. And man, that comment by Jim Rome to say that you guaranteed that you're going to be that frog's bitch. Like Jim Rome didn't care. He's like, you know what? I'm going to play along with you guys in Vegas. Let's go ahead and call him Kermit. Let's go ahead and call him a frog. That frog is going to own you for another decade. Yeah, you beat him on Christmas and you made Taylor Swift and Brittany Mahomes sad. Congratulations. You were not complaining about them being shown on TV then, hypocrites. But good luck doing that on a consistent. I'm telling you right now, if the Raiders do not go 2-0 against the Chiefs, it's going to be pretty embarrassing because you said you have the recipe to beat them. You make fun of him with the puppet and you call him a bitch and all that stuff. Like, dude, get ready for that game. The Chiefs are going to humiliate the Raiders on their own home turf. And listen, it's not really their own home turf. If you watch any Chiefs-Raiders game in Vegas, with the exception of 2020, you see a lot of red in the stands. You watch any Raiders game in Vegas, what was it? I think it was the Steelers on Monday Night Football. I think it was TJ Watt. He said after the game, he goes, this felt like a home game. The Raiders do not have a strong presence at home. They just don't. And I'm not saying it's their fault. They're in a very popular tourist city. So, there are a lot of people who are willing to spend a lot of money to go to a very expensive city, stay in those pricey hotels, and go check out their favorite team in a pretty expensive stadium. I mean, the Raiders have to have the hottest ticket. Now, that doesn't improve your roster because there's a salary cap. You can do things to improve the stadium, but that's not going to improve your team. It's a nice stadium. I'm not hiding away from that fact at all. So, enjoy your stadium. That's the only thing you really have on the Chiefs is a newer state-of-the-art stadium. And it's very likely the Chiefs are going to be going in that direction soon. The rendering that the state of Kansas showed, that does look a lot like Allegiant Stadium from the inside. Just no torch in the middle there. That's it. Yeah, he is a hitter, Bob, 100%. I mean, he is a very hard hitter, very physical safety. I do agree. That's just really what he's been good at too. Is he perfect? No. And again, to go back to Donnie's comment, I don't know if I'm ready to say that he's better than Eric Berry. Do I think he's close? Yeah, I can agree with that. but I think it's gonna get better. Did Mahomes really swing at Tony today? I mean, I don't think that happened. George Karlaftis laid him out a couple of days ago. But speaking of Kadarius Toney, I know we haven't talked a lot about training camp. Kadarius Toney, and I don't think we are giving this enough attention. None of us saw this coming. Kadarius Toney's getting a lot of looks at training camp this year. The guy who was the culprit for your offense. Now, he wasn't the only one. I don't think it's fair to just pick on him and isolate him for this whole, offensive struggles from last year. But they're giving him a lot of looks this year. Look, I know Kadarius Toney screwed up a lot last year, but what did he do right before that? He had the biggest punt return in Super Bowl history. And listen, I'm sure the Chiefs could have manufactured a good drive if Toney just fair caught it, or maybe just had a few yards. But that's still a big boost for your offense. Here's my thing with Toney. I've said this in the offseason earlier, and I'll say it again. Where's your mindset? Because my biggest criticism of Toney is that he gives a shit way too much about what people online have to say about him. I remember when the Chiefs traded for him, I was like, okay, cool. Let me check out his Instagram. Dude, he's already fighting with Giants fans who are in his comments. Like, dude, why? Who cares what those people have to say? This is, I know there's a comment Ruby mentioned about Tyrann Mathieu, and I miss Tyrann Mathieu too. My biggest criticism about Tyrann Mathieu, why did Tyrann Mathieu give a damn so much about what people had to say about him on the internet? Like, who cares? What's interesting to me is I see a lot of athletes who respond to negative comments, with a smart aleck comment, and it's funny sometimes, but there are some athletes who are like, they feel the need to respond to every single big negative comment they get. How come you don't respond to positive comments as much? I don't get it. Like, why? Show the people some love that are showing you love. Why not that? I don't know. Listen, the Chiefs are not giving up on Kadarius Toney. They see something in him. If Andy Reid is not quitting on you, then you better wake up. I hope last year was a big learning lesson for Kadarius Toney. And I don't know what he has done this offseason. I know he was not present at OTAs, which very interesting decision. Apparently, that was also a thing in New York with the Giants. Dude, I hope you found ways to improve, because the minute the drop issues become a habit, the Chiefs are not going to bench you. They're cutting your ass. So I hope he's woke up from all of that. Find a way to put that behind you, because the Chiefs listen, you can be a little more forgiving about that kind of thing when you win a Super Bowl. So go and help your team three-peat, because the Chiefs, I think, need Toney. That dude's dangerous, and he's not even the most dangerous player on your team right now. Look who you have. Kadarius Toney is going to be a depth guy for you. And if he wakes up, and if Justin Ross can live up to the hype a little bit, I know that's a lot of ifs. Dude, this is a receiving court that's going to be dangerous this year. Like, really, really, really forget about last year's Chiefs offense. That will not even compare to this year's Chiefs offense. I'm just so excited. I need September 5th to be here today. And listen, I'm all in favor of, enjoy, your day and all that stuff. Don't ever think of the future too much, but man, I can't help but think about this upcoming season. Did I see what Antonio Pierce said in his interview about the Kermit the Puppet? I read the quote. I did not listen to the whole thing. I'll actually do that after this. I am, he's not happy. Listen, what he said about the whole recipe thing, I still think is dumb. Now, he wasn't like calling anyone names. I think that's where you kind of draw the line, especially when you're a head coach. But yeah, if I was the Raiders head coach, I'd be pissed off too. Not just because I'm the head coach of the worst team in the NFL, but on top of that, it's like when you're that bad and you're talking shit on a team that's pretty much owned you for a very long time, yeah, you probably need to find a way to get that under control. I remember Justin Reed made a comment saying that he can cover T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd, one of those guys, and Andy Reid had something to say about it. And it's not like Justin Reed said anything terrible. It's just Justin Reed showing confidence, saying that he can handle business. Like, that's not a terrible thing to say, but Andy Reid took issue with that. So the Chiefs are they're very cautious about that kind of thing. I think Andy Reid has installed that in their minds, because outside of the Bengals game that was in Cincinnati a couple of years ago, I don't think you've seen a lot of talking. I think the most you've maybe seen was Travis Kelce on his podcast when he did not hold back about Justin Tucker and the whole pregame, clown act that Justin Tucker was doing. But it's kind of like, okay, dude, you're basically doing something that you probably shouldn't be doing. And you want to play these funny games, and it backfired. And don't take my word for it. Justin Tucker, when the Ravens lost to the Chiefs and they were cleaning up their lockers the next day so they can, wrap up and go on with their offseason, Justin Tucker's meeting with the media, he goes, "This is the only time I'm addressing it." Yeah, if I was Justin Tucker, I would not want to hear about the subject again in the future. 100%. Like, that was not a very smart moment for him. And I think having to deal with all that backlash, it's like, dude, you picked a fight with two guys you do not want to pick a fight with. Again, this goes back to my comment earlier, like Mahomes not ever throwing his teammates under the bus. When Justin Tucker's going out there and putting his tee and all that stuff right where the Chiefs are trying to warm up, yeah, Travis Kelce, the guy who Mahomes has taken many bullets for him. Yeah, Kelce's going to go out there and stand up to you if you're going to try to do something to Mahomes. That's what I love about this team, man. Like, I know Kelce, like, if I wasn't a Chiefs fan, yeah, I would find Kelce annoying too. But Kelce is going to be annoying if you're going to, have something to say, or you're going to try to be funny and do something to Patrick or anyone else on the team. Travis is just that guy, man. Even after that Patriots game, he and Tony were seen talking. Tyreek Hill shared a story actually recently where he said that Travis Kelce pulled him aside and said, "Dude, you're better than that. You gotta perform better on the field." I remember when Alex Smith got traded the week of the Super Bowl between the Patriots and Eagles. Travis Kelce took to Instagram immediately and just gave Alex Smith all the praise in the world. Travis Kelce is that guy, man. You might be in the wrong, but Travis Kelce will always be by your side. That is the guy you want on your corner, on your side. Patrick Mahomes is the guy you want on your team, a guy who you want in your corner backing you up. And Patrick always has his teammates' backs, even when they screw up. Doesn't ever throw them under the bus publicly. Does he go behind closed doors? And did he have some tough conversations with Tony? Absolutely. But you keep those conversations behind closed doors, not publicly. So that's why this team fights for one another, man. Aren't we, Ruby? You're speaking for every Chiefs fan. Lego My Ego, I love your name, dude. Appreciate it. Yeah. So real quickly, so Lego My Ego, you are because the Waffle MOD said so. Okay, I don't know what that is, but shout out to the Waffle MOD. Shout out to the Waffle MOD. Let me quickly just pull this up here. The Chiefs Zone. There we go. If you guys haven't done so already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're still doing videos on Facebook. Don't get me wrong. That's not going away. We're going to start doing more and more video content on the Chiefs Zone's YouTube page. So would greatly appreciate it if you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel as well if you haven't done so already. I'll read a couple more and get out of here. Appreciate you guys joining me on this Friday night. You guys are awesome, man. You guys are the best. Bring on September the 5th. Hell yeah. Let's go, Lori. Sam says, I'm so hungry for Chiefs football. I've been watching last year's games. It doesn't get old. I love our Chiefs. Go Chiefs. Okay, I'm so glad you brought this up, Sam, because I've been watching, some past highlights too. But I've also gone back and I've been watching games from like 2010. Guys, I cannot put in the words how weird it is to watch somebody else on the field wear number 15. I'm watching the Chiefs in 2010, and they had some really good games in 2010. Actually, you kind of forget like that was Matt Castle and Todd Haley, but that was actually a good year for the Kansas City Chiefs. But dude, who was it? Was it Chris Chambers? I want to get the right name. I'm looking it up right now. No, it wasn't Chris Chambers. Who was number 15? Verran Tucker. You guys remember Verran Tucker, I'm sure. Dude who was drafted out of California. Or I don't know if he was drafted even. But neither here nor there. He was a wide receiver for the Chiefs wearing 15. And I keep seeing 15 on the field. And they're not zooming in on him closely. So I see who the jersey, the back of the jersey, I'm like, who the hell is 15? And if I just up on Pro Football Reference, I was like, oh, Verran Tucker. Like, I remember the name, but I don't really recall him making any big plays. But my God, man. Dude, those games from back then, like, yeah, the Chiefs, not the best years overall as a whole, but it's just so weird seeing somebody else wear number 15. I don't get it, man. Like it's just something weird about that. It's almost as weird as seeing somebody wear 88 today. Like, who wore the great 88? It was Tony Gonzalez. And by the way, last comment before I get out of here. Carl made an interesting, and he mentioned that the Chiefs have maybe not done the best job of handling retired numbers, and he mentioned that the only players who have retired numbers are from the team are players who played in the 60s and 70s, except for Derek Thomas. Those are the only numbers, and Joe Delaney. I don't think they ever formally retired Joe Delaney's number, but nobody's wore 37 since Joe Delaney wore it, if I'm not mistaken. But Will Shields, who was amazing as an offensive guard, you've still seen 68 out there. You've seen 88. I think, a guy like Tony Gonzalez, his number might, you can retire that number. But you for a fact are going to retire 15, 87, and 95. Nobody should ever be allowed to wear 15, 87, and 95, in my opinion. Like, whoever wore them in the past, they wore them. Yeah, Eddie Kennison. Yeah, you're right. He did wear 87. But today, moving forward, like, we know Kelsey's only got a few years left. No one should ever touch that jersey number again in Chiefs history. I do not want to see anyone else wear 87. I think that number has a legacy in Kansas City with Travis Kelce. Same with 15 and 95. Yeah, the Chiefs probably have retired more numbers than they really should, but those three numbers plus Tony Gonzalez's number, I think very well should be retired, in my opinion. Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay. Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't watch those other YouTube. When someone says they don't watch someone, people get like offended by that, or maybe some people are like as a slight. I'm just busy, so I don't ever get to check out other Chiefs content. But I know those guys have a lot of followers, so obviously they're doing something really good. Especially how about them Chiefs guy? Like he's he's got a massive following. So again, I'm not familiar with his work, so I don't know exactly what he does, but obviously it's very good quality if he's got that big of a following. So yeah, good on those guys. It's pretty cool that you work with them. Okay, all right. I think we're pretty good on the comments. We're caught up with those. So hey, Friday night, Red Friday live chat. I always wonder, are people going to show up on a Friday night? And you guys always deliver. So I appreciate you guys. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. My name is Farzi Vasugian. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Red Friday live chat. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. I am out. Take care.